What up, YouTube? Welcome back. We're talking about Invoker today. And we're not talking about this Invoker. We're talking about this Invoker. Because the old Invoker, the Son Goku, has been a bit power crept. This can only go to 15k on its front side, and on its back side, it doesn't draw cards. So, like, yes, I know we have Tyranny's Cost. We got ways to draw cards. I'm not ignorant to the fact that you can make this work. I just believe that Bandai's done a very good job designing the Android 17 leader, the Warriors of U7 leader, and I think it warrants giving it a fair try. So yeah, other than like not being very good defensively anymore, the not drawing on the backside as a control type deck is just like throw that card away. Anyways, what I'm gonna do is I do have a 60 card build right now of Invoker where I just threw in everything I thought that should be in the deck, basically, and it added up to 60 cards. It was 61 actually, and I had to cut it from there. So we'll talk about the leader. We'll talk about some of the Z-Deck cards. We're missing a couple Z-Deck cards because the Gohan starter deck that comes out on Friday is going to have two Z-Deck cards that we're going to play. It's a Gohan and a Frieza. But anyways, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's start by talking about the leader. Android 17, Warrior of U7, which means all your U7s have non-specified costs. When this card attacks, draw a card. When you add a red-blue multicolor card to your energy, switch up to one of your energy to active mode and negate this skill for the game. So already that's really, really good for us because turn 1, we can charge a tapped energy and immediately untap it. And we actually have energy to make a turn 1 play. So the Awaken is when your life's at 4 or less, or when you have a Universe 7 Z battle card with an energy cost of 2 or more in play. You draw a card, you untap 1, and you go down to 6. That's becoming a really common Awaken condition, and I don't hate it. I feel like it's a good balance of everything. We're getting to a point where, like, being at 6 when you're awakened is the norm rather than being at 4. And I think that's a little healthier, but let me not go off on that whole tangent. Warriors of U7 United is 1. So Warrior of U7 tag on this side as well. Auto. Once per turn when you play, attack with, or activate the blocker of a U7 Z battle card. Draw a card. So again, we're in this situation like with the leader we threw away. We're like on our backside, we're not drawing a lot, and that's why I think the Z deck that we have right now, it might honestly just end up being like one of every good U7 Z card or something, just so we can always be able to play them. Anyways. Auto, once per turn, discard a Deadly Clash from your hand. When you use Arrival to play a red-blue multicolor battle card, choose up to one of your Universe 7 cards with Arrival, and it gains Barrier for the turn. So we do have 2 Arrival U7 cards. Forces you to play Surmounting to turn on tokens. It's fine. Yeah, I like going down to 6. I feel like going down to 6 is healthy for the game. It allows control decks to play defensively. And it forces aggro decks to find their way down to 4 to be able to start using the good super combos. So, it's really good. Anyways, that's the leader. Not much more to him. He is a red leader, which is unfortunate, so we don't have Dimension Magic to enable a lot of those silly plays. But I think there is a lot going for this leader. We'll leave him up here while we talk about the Z deck. So right now, I'm only running these 2 cards, 2 copies of each. We will run 2 copies of the 1-drop Frieza. It's a 1/1 green Frieza that's a blocker that also has some weird skill tied to Goku or whatever. That doesn't matter. It's a 1/1, so we'll be able to play it very effectively. And it's a blocker as well. So it's going to draw one on our turn and then draw one on our opponent's turn, provided they don't out it. If they out it, they're spending resources on a 1-drop blocker to stop us from drawing a card, which ultimately I think is going to be all right. Let's talk about these Z cards. So Vegeta is the better of the two, but you're going to play Goku because Goku places Vegeta under him, and then they swap places. It's weird. Vegeta says he's a 2/3, but it doesn't matter because we're playing him off of Goku. Auto limit 1 when you use a rival to play a red-blue multicolor battle card, draw a card. So if we're leaning hard into that arrival strategy, we get an extra draw off of our arrivals. That's really cool. Activate main limit 1. Pay a blue energy if your leader card's a red warriors of U7 and you have 3 or more energy. Play up to 1 red U7 card with an energy cost of 3 or less from under this card and remove this card from the game. So I'll tell you what that does after we talk about the Goku. So, Goku. He's a 2/1 Z-Stack 2 for red U7 battle card. So you can Z-Stack like 2 of him. You can like do 1 and 1 or like 2 Vegetas or whatever. I don't know why you would need 2 under him. I haven't tested that thoroughly with this deck. This is very much a preliminary build. This is a rough draft. I just got my hands on these cards a few days ago, and I'm just trying to see what I can make work and get some ideas out in the air so people can throw them together, start tinkering, and add their own input, because that's really why I like doing this. I enjoy fostering more competition, and like improving archetypes as a whole, as a community, is a good way to do that. Anyways, so yeah, we Z-Stack 2 auto. If you have 4 more energy when this card's played from under a card by a skill, this card gets 10k power and dual attack for the turn. So this is, you have to be at 4 energy. So if you play this on turn 3, go into this, and then going into your turn 4, they swap. You swap out the Goku and he becomes a 25 dual attacker. If your leader's a red warrior U7 card, at the start of your opponent's main phase, play up to 1 red U7 card with energy cost of 2 or less from under this card, and place this card under the played card. So that's what I was talking about, is where you're going to pay 2 and 1 to play this guy. Then at the start of their turn for free, they'll swap places. And then you can arrival out your Gohan or your 17. And draw an extra card when you do so. And hopefully use some Invoker stuff to keep him alive, because at the start of your 4th turn, you can pay 1 energy to have a 25k dual attacker. Pretty decent combo. I think it's also a lot better because of the fact your leader is going to draw off of these being played. If it wasn't for the whole, like, this makes your leader draw a few cards, it would be really bad, because these guys don't have protection at all. But if they're wasting one of their counterplays on one of these Z cards, I think we'll be alright. Alright, let's talk about the main deck. So the main deck's really weird right now. I'm going to start by showing you the only 0 plus 5Ks that are in the 60 card deck right now. And you'll see why I feel like this is something we need to work on as a community and like brainstorm on, because squeezing all the good Invoker stuff into this deck is going to be a mission. Alright, so we start with 2 Android 17 Calm Judgment. When this card's played, look at up to 5 cards from the top of your deck, add up to 1 red-blue multicolor card with energy cost of 6 or less among them to your hand, shuffle your deck. It's any red-blue multicolor card. So we can add either our extra cards or our arrival invokers or super combos, whatever you want to add, he can add. Really good. This, on the other hand, only grabs a U7 with an energy cost of 6 or less. This also has a permanent, however, that says if your leader is a warrior of U7 card, there are no copies of this card in your drop. When one of your Android 17 cards would be removed from your battle area by an opponent's skill, you may discard this card from your hand instead. So, getting these in our drop area is fairly important. I'll explain why in a little bit, but it also puts itself in the drop area while protecting one of our Android 17 invokers, which is really, really strong. I could see an argument for running maybe a third copy of this, but like I said, space is very tight. We'll have to figure out some ratios. Next up, I'm playing 2 Frieza Pride of an Emperor and 2 Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta Beyond Full Power. Now, these cards on play are rather... they're not underwhelming, but they're not like, oh my god, that's so good for 2 energy. So, Vegeta's a unique dual attacker. That they both say if you have 3 or more energy, reduce this cost of this card in your hand by 1. So they both play for 2. Vegeta says auto, limit 1. If your leader is a red Warriors of U7 card and you play that... oh, so yeah. This first auto, they both share the same auto. Basically, when you combo with one of these and you play an arrival, you can then drop this to draw a card. So, say you're over comboing just to arrival, you can circumvent that loss of cards from hand by using one of these. So, I'm not sure how effective in practice it's going to be, but in theory it sounds like a really strong way to cycle and also get 5Ks in our drop that we can use later on. Auto, once per turn when this card attacks, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and place it at the bottom of its owner's deck. So this is 2 cost removal on legs, as well as this one. This one says, if your leader is a U7, when this card's played, draw a card, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, it gets minus 25 for the turn. So like I said, they're not bad. It's just paying 2 energy for an effect like that when we're paying 2 energy for much stronger plays generally is a whole different ballgame. So like, I think I would only really use these for the effect to combo them, or to drop them from the combo area to draw a card after we've arrivaled something out. Alright, let's look at our arrival targets. And disclaimer real quick, I did only manage to get my hands on 2 Gohans. So that's all I have right now in this build. I think I would play him at 3 or 4 for sure. I'm not sure about a 4th copy just because he only gains Invoker for the turn. And we're running other cards that also can give us an Invoker for the turn. Hint, hint, wink, wink. So let's talk about Gohan first, since he is the weaker of the 2. Gohan's a 4-drop, 15k. Arrival red-blue for 1 red. If your opponent has 3 or more energy and it's your opponent's turn, when this card's played, it gains Invoker for the turn. Simple enough. Activate battle, limit 1. If your leader is a red Warriors of U7 card and it's your opponent's turn, switch up to one of your red-blue multicolor energy to active mode, and you can't play battle cards from your hand until the end of your next turn. Now that really doesn't matter for us. We're not playing battle cards from our hand. We're usually just going to play from our Z deck to be able to draw cards. But understanding that we have to play from our Z deck, we do need to be able to combo consistently, which is why building this deck, I think, is going to be incredibly tricky. Alright, let's talk about the... so yeah, like I said, I'm only running 2 because I only have 2 right now. I would definitely run 3 to 4. The other Invoker we run, and the better option, is Android 17. The move that turns the tide. This motherfucker loves turning the tide. Energy Exhaust, Double Strike, Arrival red-blue for 1 red and 1 blue. So he does cost 2 to Arrival out, which is a steep cost, but for a 25k 6-drop Double Striker, I can't complain. Also, permanent, if your leader is a red Warriors of U7 card, this card gains Invoker. So this is our main invoker for the deck. We have 18 to protect him. We have our leader to potentially give him barrier. I think that Gohan's a 2 of and maybe side a third. I could definitely see that, Jeff M. Good shout. Good shout. So when this card's played, you get to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add a red-blue multicolor card, energy cost of 6 or less among them to your hand, shuffle your deck, and then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, energy cost of 4 or less, and KO it. Now, I just want to talk about something really funny, is for the longest time, I haven't seen a red or blue card actually say KO a card. And this does. Usually it's like minus 25 it if it's a red card, bounce it, or bottom deck it if it's a blue card. So they're going back to giving other colors the ability to KO stuff, which only greens had recently. That's interesting. And I kept mentioning that we do want to get 5Ks in our drop. So the reason is, this also has an activate battle where you can discard a card from your hand and use up to 2 red and or blue cards, both with 5k power and U7 from your drop, in a combo with their skills negated for the turn. So you're not going to be able to use these more than once. Like, once you use them out of your hand, you're not going to be able to use the auto to drop them and draw a card. That's fine though. This is once per turn, pitch a card to get 10k combo power. I think that's really, really important in this deck. And the reason that I value this deck over the old Invoker lead, even though, like, realistically you could try to play the arrival stuff in the old Invoker lead, but you can't give it barrier, so what are you really doing? Alright, so the next card, and I don't think a lot of people have been talking about this card as much as we need to. This is the Beerus and Whis DAR. So this is a blocker, energy exhaust invoker. If you have 3 or more energy, when one of your red or blue battle cards is removed from your battle area by an opponent's skill, play this card from your hand and you can't play another copy of this card for the turn. So we don't even need one of the arrivals established. If they get rid of one of our Z cards, this guy plays and gains Invoker for the turn. And now they're in a position where they have to waste resources trying to remove an active mode 4-drop. With 20k power, which might be difficult for some decks. Or they're playing into an Invoker. And then at the end of the turn, it bottom decks itself and you draw a card. So 3, I think, is the perfect number for this. I could even see an argument for 2 if we're trying to shave ratios and cut this deck down to like 54-ish cards. But yeah, I think the ability to just free play an Invoker is incredibly valuable. This is probably going to be one of the most sought after cards for this archetype. Just because it helps you reestablish, like, they commit, say you do play this and give it barrier, and then they're green, they tap 2 for a faded rival to kill it. You're like, cool, I got this too. And hopefully they don't have a charismatic for this, but it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Next up, let's talk about our super combo. Obviously, we're playing all these arrivals, Divine Obliterator, it's a given. Now, it's not in here, but you could play We Are Universe 7, which is a red 1-drop extra card that has the ability to pick this up from your drop area, so you can reuse your super combo. I would play 2 copies if you find the space. I could not find the space. If you're unfamiliar with the super combo, when you combo with it, you untap one of your red-blue multicolor energies. It's fantastic at setting up arrival plays that we're always trying to do. Another card that's fantastic at setting up arrival plays is Son Goku Rival Seeker. If you have a red-blue multicolor extra card in your drop area, reduce the combo cost of this card in your hand by 1. So this is just a free 10k red-blue at any point in the game. And then it does have an activate main once per turn if you have 5 or more energy and you add 2 red-blue multicolor extra cards from your warp to your hand. Choose up to 1 red-blue multicolor Son Goku card with an energy cost of 6 in your hand and play it on top of this card. So, turn 5 onwards, we do have the ability to use him to go into either of these. And I know I'm getting off camera. I apologize. Let me scoot them up. So let's talk about Instinct Surpass first, because it's pretty straightforward. This is a triple striker with Deflect that says activate main, and this is not once per turn. Activate main, choose 2 red-blue multicolor extra cards from your hand and or drop area, send them to your warp, and choose up to one of your opponent's leader cards. It gets minus 5k for the duration of the turn, and switches card to active mode. So you can swing triple strike, switch him to active mode, minus 5 your leader, swing triple strike, switch him to active mode, minus 5 your leader, swing triple strike. Like, this might end up being the win condition for the deck if Energy Explosion doesn't feel good. But we're also playing one Energy Explosion, which if you played against Old Invoker, or if you played Old Invoker, you're super familiar with. This guy has Invoker, and again, we can play him off the 3-drop on turn 5. He says, auto, choose 3 of your energy and place them in their owner's drop areas. When you play this card from your hand, choose up to 3 cards in your drop area, negate their energy exhaust, and place them in your energy. So basically, when he's played, you get 3 energy up. Auto, once per turn, when one of your cards deals damage to your opponent, deal 1 additional damage to your opponent. So we have the famous combo, and don't yell at me for it not being foil, but we got Cat Blow. This says activate main, limit 1 if you have a red-blue multicolor Son Goku card in play, or there are no battle cards in your battle area. Deal 1 damage to your opponent. So this turns into a deal 2 damage with that on the board. Activate main, send this card from your drop area to your warp. Look at the top card of your deck. If it's a multicolor extra card, you may add it to your hand. Otherwise, place it on top of your deck. Get familiar with those words, because a lot of cards in our deck say that. We'll revisit that card later, but that is the combo. So this is the entire battle card lineup. Actually, I lied to you. We can talk about our secret rare now. I was gonna save it for the end. So I know everybody that owns Apex is gonna try to play Apex, and I'm happy for you. But if you want to play Apex, I would urge you to play this leader. I don't think this leader and the rival playstyle facilitates Apex as well as whatchamacallit does, the old leader. You do want to be swinging with your dudes to draw cards, so there's no guarantee you're going to be able to stall them in 8 life. So that all being said, my secret rare of choice for this deck is Golden Cooler Radiant Pride. So we're a control deck, right? We're the control deck. Our opponent's probably going to maintain a decent sized hand against us. That makes Golden Cooler very valuable. Golden Cooler is basically another copy of Instinct Surpassed. And if you're unfamiliar with what he does, ultimate double strike blocker. When this card's played, choose all of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, send them to their owner's warp. So that board wipe alone. Also, Apex loses to like 1 extra card. That's why I did suggest running this, because you can rip the extra card or know if it's safe to play the Apex. So yeah, this wipes the board, ignoring barrier. Then your opponent chooses 5 cards in their hand to keep, adds the rest of them to their Z energy, and this card gains barrier for the turn. So we have a double striker with barrier that wipes a board, ignoring barrier, that plays for 5 energy if your opponent has 4 or more energy. So you can play it on your 5, their 4 energy, which is cool. So going first, you can just slap this on 5. Activate main or battle. If this card is in rest mode and you place 2 of your opponent's Z energy in their owner's drops, switch this card to active mode. So we are draining our opponent of their Z energy and the Z energy we've given them, and swinging for an infinite amount of double strikes. Like if they had a 12 card hand, which is super realistic in the game these days. They had a 12 card hand. They're putting 7 cards in their Z energy. Let's say they only had 1 Z energy. They probably had more. Let's say they only had 1 Z energy. So now they have 8 cards in their Z energy. That means we are swinging 4 times for 40k double strike. That's quadruple attack. Golden Cool is perfect against Red Sin. Get rid of the Dragon Balls and they're screwed. I didn't even think about that. That's funny. If we could side Secret Rares, I would side this in every deck just to cheese Sin Shenron. That's great. But yeah, I think Golden Cooler might end up being the best SCR for this deck. Shout out to my boy Floopy for suggesting that last night, and then me thinking about him being like, wait a second. This is actually really heckin' good. Alright. Now I'm running out of space on the mat. So what do? Let me condense some cards and then we'll go into our extra card lineup. If you're an Invoker player, you can recognize these cards at a glance, so I'll leave them out for a screenshot at the end. I'm really excited to see if this deck creates a triangle format, because I think right now it's an Android 21 format, unless somebody proves me wrong. But if this deck can be an effective answer to 21, then I think it would be a triangle, because this deck likely loses to hard aggro, because I don't think there's a good floodgate for this deck. Our best floodgate is the next card I'm going to talk about here. And let's move these out of the way. Is Vermilion in contention? Good question, Chris. Vermilion could be a cheeky option. I just don't think the deck... I mean, I guess it's a secret rare floodgate. So that is a good shout. That is an option to be considered. And you'll always go to 25 off of it because you'll always have 2 colors. Something to think about for certain. Alright, let's go into the rest of the deck. We got 4 Senzu Bean. We're playing a red deck that wants to use a lot of energy. We have blue energy. We're gonna play Senzu Bean. Not gonna say much more about that. Actually, us being an arrival deck means the Senzu Bean errata does not really affect us. We do always want to use these defensively. This also functions as a pseudo floodgate by pumping our leader and making it so that our opponent has to work harder to hit us. Okay, TOP Arena. So this card is the reason I believe this deck needs to be at a hard 50 cards. I don't know how that's gonna happen, but I believe it needs to happen because of this card. If you don't open this card, the deck feels significantly weaker. Let's talk about it. It's a field with a permanent that says if your leader is a U7 card, negate the energy exhaust of your red-blue multicolor cards in all areas. So it's not just extra cards, it's all your red-blue multicolor cards become chargeable. That's why running 3 of these is fine. We don't care about seeing 2 in our hand. Running a bunch of, it's fine. We can charge everything. Activate main if your leader is a U7 card and you switch this card to rest mode. Look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck and place them at the top or bottom of your deck in any order. So this is where this deck becomes skillful. Everything I've shown you so far has been pretty straightforward. This card allows you to fix your draws sometimes, give you free cards at other times, or remove cards from the top of your deck that you absolutely don't want to see in the matchup. So a player's mastery of the arena will be a good indicator of how high their ceiling is with this deck. I don't think you can play this deck effectively without the TOP arena. I don't think you can play this deck effectively unless you see the TOP arena on turn 1, which is why, once again, I think we need to cut this deck to 50 cards from the 60 I currently have it at. I just don't know where those cuts will be made. So stay tuned. I will post an updated deck profile once I have more time with the deck. But yeah, let's get into the real reason y'all are here. The red, blue, multicolor cards. The rest of the cards in this deck are all red, blue, multicolor Invoker spells. First up, let's talk about our one-ofs. We have one combination attack. Now, combination attack is somewhat lackluster, sure, because a lot of things have barrier these days. But you know what doesn't have barrier? A lot of Z cards that could be problematic. Specifically, at the front of my mind is the Cell Z card. Having an answer, a 1-card answer to the Cell Z card is very nice. This says activate battle, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards at energy cost of 5 or less, return it to its owner's hand, and then choose up to one of your red or blue energy and switch it to active mode. So yeah, usually you don't like bouncing cards, but if it's a Z card, it's not getting bounced. It's just leaving the game. Alright, we're playing 1, we're in this together. This card can be recycled. Its second activate main says if your leader card is a Universe 7 card, add this card from your drop area to your hand, and it costs 1 red energy. So once this card is in your drop area, every turn you can just tap 1, grab it back. Activate main, if your leader is a U7 card, choose all of your opponent's battle cards with 25k power or less and KO them. So this is a board wipe. This is our other board wipe besides Cooler. If you're playing against something like Red Pan, this is going to be something you want to mulligan for. These one-ofs could all potentially be side deck cards and probably will be the first cards to get cut when I try to bring this down to 50. We're playing 1 Explosive Demon Wave. This is our counter, which we can activate for 1, which is sick. It only counters a battle card's counterattack skill, however. So I mean, if they try to Defending Friends us or something, if we know there's a potential for Defending Friends, we might wait till turn 6 to play our Cooler, or we might go for like an Instinct Surpassed when we already have an Invoker on the board. Or wait, no, we wouldn't have energy. I lie. Actually, we would, because we'd have 2 extra energy off the Rival Seeker. So yeah, we could go Rival Seeker into Instinct Surpassed, and then spend an energy to counter one of the Instinct Surpass swings. So that, in theory, sounds really heckin' strong. So we're gonna keep Demon Wave in the main deck probably. Cat Blow is another one. Like I said, these one-ofs might get cut. I meant these 2 more than these 2. And wearing this together is so good that it would be hard to make an argument to cut it. You see where I'm at with, like, this deck is so big. Cat Blow, we already talked about. If we have a red-blue multicolor Goku or no battle cards in play, we burn our opponent for a life. Fantastic when used in conjunction with Energy Explosion. I don't think this will be our primary win condition, but something we can pivot into if the opportunity arises. A cool play will be surprising them with one of our Android 17 swings. Combo on top of it, maybe like use a Rival Seeker in a super combo, get it up to like a big 45k double strike, put them from 4 to 2, and then play our Golden Cooler. Go crazy, or play our Energy Explosion into Cat Blow, burn them for 2. The fact that 17 is a big 25 double striker is what makes me believe we don't really need to burn for 4 anymore with like cap blow loops and stuff. I think we can just burn for 2, and that will be enough to burn for game most of the time. All right, next up, we're running 3 Tyranny's Cost. Now, Tyranny's Cost is a straight up draw 2 cards. So even if you're not getting the rest of the effect, you can tap 1 to draw 2 cards. Worth running for that alone. The rest of the effect, though, is also super relevant, but something we want to think about if we're going to play cooler. It says if your opponent has 11 or more cards in their hand, they choose cards in their hand and shuffle them into their deck until they have 10 cards. So if we see an angle where we're going to be playing a cooler, we got to be careful about playing our Tyranny's Cost, because it can hurt our cooler's ceiling. But in the early game, especially, just being able to tap 1, draw 2 is phenomenal. Next up, 3 Royal Condemnation. Royal Condemnation hits so many things. It hits an 8 or less and bottom decks it instead of being played. So you answer a lot of secret rares with this card. This card is just this used to be one of 2 reasons to play Invoker. It also has an activate main where you can warp it from your drop to grab the top card of your deck if it's a multicolor extra card, which TOP allows us to stack. Cap Blow also does the same thing. So if we're able to stack a multicolor extra card on top of our deck with TOP Arena, we can use Royal Condemnation or Catastrophic Blow to grab it. We can also use Emperor's Death Beam. So Emperor's Death Beam has the same activate main. Look at the top card, grab it if it's a multicolor. But what it also does, which is super sick, is it minuses 30 to something, ignoring barrier at activate battle timing. It's activate main / battle. So I think this was one of the first cards that had an activate main / battle too. So this is like, if you played back in the day, this is our Explosive Spirit Son Goku for the deck. Your opponent needs to swing with something that's like a 40k and then give it a little more base strength, because we could go double Death Beam. This is not limit 1, by the way. We could go double Death Beam to go minus 60 to anything through barrier. So your opponent going for game when we have an Invoker on the board with a battle card is usually never safe. This is another minus 30 potentially. And I only have it at 3. This is probably going to be a 4 of. I could see an argument to cut the 3rd Tyranny's Cost to put the 4th one of this in. This is Universe 7 Powers Combined. This is one of the new ones we got. It says if your leader is a red U7 card and you place 1 U7 from your energy and its owner's drop at the end of your turn, add this card from your drop to your energy when the energy exhaust negated. So what that means is, say you have a tapped energy, and it's the end of your turn, and this is in your drop. You're gonna kill the tapped energy and charge this in active mode. So it's not ramp, it's pseudo ramp, but it's pseudo untap, I guess, more than ramp, which is cool. It gives us more energy to play with for Invoker, and it makes us feel a little bit like a blue deck. So this is an auto 4 of. Like I said, I know there's 3 here, but I only pulled 3 during pre-release, so that's why there's only 3. What else does it do? Oh, right. Choose. It's an activate main / battle. It's very similar to Death Beam, but it doesn't go through barrier. Choose up to 1 of your cards, and it gets plus 5k for the turn. And then choose up to 1 of your opponent's non-leader cards, and it gets minus 30k for the turn. So it's Death Beam with a Sensu Beam attached, which is great because we can like Sensu Beam plus this, and we're a 25k base leader. Huge. But it doesn't go through barrier. Something to be aware of. So I think eventually, especially trying to cut ratios, we'll probably end up on 2 Death Beams and 4 of these. I know Death Beam goes to barrier, but it's going to be tough to figure out ratios for this deck. I'm gonna be honest with you. Said it before, I'm gonna say it again. Ratios will be a nightmare. For Sleepy Boy technique. Tyranny's cost is a draw 2. This is also a draw 2. Plus, it negates an attack, draws 2 cards, and bounces any one of your opponent's battle cards at counter timing. So, it does everything. And you can use it for 1 energy. If we had Dimension Magic once again, this would be even more scary. But it's still our only hard negate in the deck. And the fact that it draws 2 is monumental. Because we're not cycling as consistently as the old Invoker leader did. But we are drawing a bit more than it did. So adding more draw power is going to be paramount to this deck's success. Finally, our last 4 cards are 4 Deadly Clash. So our leader says you have to pitch this card to give your 17 or your Gohan barrier for the turn. So I think 4 is where I'm going to start with it. I might go down to 3 when we're cutting down to 50 cards. But being able to get these guys barrier is such a big play. Its other effect is, well, that's not even its effect. That's what happens when we pitch it off our leader. It says auto limit 1 if your leader's a red Warriors of U7 card, and you send 1 U7 card and this card from your drop to your warp. When one of your U7 cards would be removed from your battle area by an opponent's skill or KO'd, draw a card. So, I'm not sure exactly how this works, I'll be honest with you. It says when they would be removed, draw a card. So does that mean instead of it being removed, you draw a card? Because then it's really good. If it's when they're going to be removed, you draw a card, that's still pretty good for free. It's an activate battle limit 1. If your leader is a mono red U7 card, choose up to one of your red U7 Android 17 battle cards, switch it to active mode. It gets 10k power for the turn. And at the end of the turn, switch up to one of your energy to active mode. So, no, it gets removed and then you draw. Okay. So, it doesn't stop. It doesn't protect your guys like the 18 does. But it's still pretty good in that it's giving you a card when one of your cards gets destroyed. What's also really great is we can combine this with our Android 17 move that turns the tide to make him a dual attack double striker. That's a 35k base. It's a good way of getting extra cards in your warp because you also get a draw. Yeah, that's true. If we haven't seen like Death Beam, Condemnation, or Cat Blow, we only run these 7 cards that actually put themselves in the warp. Oh, good call, Soldier. It also potentially removes our Android 18 from the drop so that we can use a second copy to save another 17. So that's some really good synergy and an argument to maybe run a third copy of Android 18 along with these. So, this is my main deck. Full disclaimer, I've said it before, this is a rough draft. I'm missing maybe a third Gohan. I'm definitely missing a 4th U7 powers combined. And this is 60 cards. I don't think 60 cards is ever going to win anything significant. So understanding that, we might need to just like start chopping things left and right to make space. First thing to go would probably be combination attack, maybe the 3rd Death Beam, maybe the 3rd Condemnation, maybe the 3rd Tyranny's Cost, but now I just cut 4 of our spells. So now let's look at what else could be cut on the battle card side. Maybe we could go down to 2 of these. It's tough, because like, do I want to remove a win con? No. Do I want to remove some early consistency pieces? Not really. So that's like 5 cards you could take out off rip to go down to 55 maybe. Rumweese and hold the L. I mean, no. That's even worse. So I'm gonna put these cards back. If you want to take a quick screenshot, go on ahead. I'm gonna end the recording for the YouTube video. Thank y'all for tuning in, YouTube audience. We'll have another deck profile coming later this week. And yeah, we'll keep talking about Invoker.